I just helped a company cut their Azure networking bill by 40% and significantly reduce their security incidents, all by fixing one misconfigured routing policy in their virtual WAN secure hub. If you're running multi-region branch connectivity without centralized traffic inspection, you're basically leaving your front door wide open.
Okay, that sounds serious. Welcome back to the Network Ninja Cloudcast, everyone. I'm really curious about this one because I've been struggling to understand how Azure Virtual WAN fits together with Azure Firewall.
Great to have you here. Today we're diving deep into one specific thing: how to properly configure traffic inspection and routing policies when you're connecting branch offices across multiple regions through Azure Virtual WAN Secure Hub. This is where I see teams mess up constantly.
So, what's the actual problem we're solving here? Like, why can't I just set up regular VPN connections to each region?
Here's the pain point. Imagine you have branch offices in Chicago, London, and Singapore, all connecting to Azure resources in multiple regions. Without Virtual WAN Secure Hub, you'd need to manage separate VPN gateways, configure routing tables manually in each region, and somehow inspect traffic flowing between branches. That's a nightmare of complexity, and security gaps slip through constantly.
So, it's like trying to manage security checkpoints at every single intersection in a city instead of having one central hub?
Exactly right. And let me validate that analogy technically. Azure Virtual WAN creates a hub-and-spoke topology where your secure hub acts as that central checkpoint. Microsoft's documentation specifically calls this the any-to-any transitive connectivity model. All traffic between branches and VNets, and even between VNets themselves can flow through your hub where Azure Firewall inspects it.
Okay, so how do I actually set this up? What's the first step?
Step 1 is deploying your virtual WAN resource and creating secure hubs in each region where you need presence. When you create a hub, you specify the region and the address space. Here's a critical detail. Microsoft's documentation specifies a minimum of a /24 CIDR block for your hub address space. The hub needs IP addresses for the gateway subnets, the firewall subnet, and routing infrastructure. For larger deployments, you might want to go with a /23 to give yourself more room. Something like 10.100.0.0 out of 24 for your East US hub and 10.101.0.0 out of 24 for your West Europe hub.
Wait, so I need a secure hub in every region? That sounds expensive.
You need hubs where your branches connect, but here's the key insight. Pricing has multiple components and varies by region, so I always recommend checking the Azure pricing calculator for current rates. You've got the virtual WAN hub charges for deployment units and connection units, plus the Azure firewall charges, which depend on whether you're using standard or premium SKU. Premium runs higher but gives you advanced threat protection features. Compare the total cost to managing separate firewalls, VPN gateways, and route tables in each region. The consolidation actually saves money for most organizations once you have more than 2 or 3 branch locations.
All right, so I've got my hubs deployed. How does the traffic inspection actually work?
This is step 2, and it's where the magic happens. You configure routing intent and routing policies at the secure hub level. Important distinction here: routing intent is a feature specific to secure hubs, meaning hubs with integrated Azure Firewall or third-party NVAs. Standard virtual WAN hubs use different routing mechanisms like custom route tables. In the Azure portal, navigate to your virtual WAN, select your secure hub, then go to routing intent and routing policies. You'll see 2 critical toggles: internet traffic and private traffic. When you enable private traffic and select Azure Firewall as the next hop, all branch-to-branch and branch-to-VNet traffic gets inspected.
So if my Chicago branch sends data to my London branch, it goes through the firewall even though they're in different regions?
Good question, and the answer depends on your configuration. When routing intent is enabled, private traffic inspection typically occurs at the originating hub. So traffic from Chicago would be inspected by the firewall in your US hub before crossing the Microsoft backbone to London. If you want inspection at both ends, you need routing intent enabled on both secure hubs and configured appropriately. Microsoft calls this secured inter-hub connectivity, but the exact inspection points depend on how you've set up your policies. Always verify your specific configuration matches your security requirements.
That seems like it could add latency though, right?
Valid concern. Here's the thing though. Inter-region latency varies dramatically based on geographic distance. Between adjacent regions or availability zones, you might see 2 to 5 milliseconds. But cross-continental traffic, like US East to West Europe, can be 70 to 100 milliseconds or more. Even US East to US West is around 60 to 70 milliseconds. Microsoft publishes network round-trip latency statistics that you should reference when planning your architecture. On top of that, firewall inspection adds processing time. This is where your firewall policy design matters. Use IP groups to batch your rules, but be aware they have limits: 5,000 individual IP addresses or prefixes per IP group, and limits on total IPs across groups per firewall. Keep your rule collection groups organized by priority, and avoid overly broad rules that require deep packet inspection when simple network rules would suffice.
What's the biggest mistake you see people make with this setup?
Number 1 mistake: forgetting to configure the routing intent for private traffic and wondering why branch-to-branch communication bypasses the firewall entirely. By default, even with a secure hub deployed, virtual WAN routes traffic directly without inspection. You must explicitly enable routing policies on your secure hub. Number 2. Using overlapping address spaces between branches and VNets. I've seen teams use 10.0.0.0 out of 8 everywhere and then spend days troubleshooting why routing fails. Plan your IP addressing with non-overlapping CIDR blocks from the start.
Let me make sure I've got this. So Virtual WAN Secure Hub gives me centralized connectivity for all my branches. Azure Firewall integration means all traffic gets inspected at the hub level, and routing policies let me control exactly what traffic goes through the firewall versus what routes directly.
Perfect summary. And here's your pro tip: enable Azure Firewall's diagnostic logs and send them to a log analytics workspace. Use the resource-specific tables like azure-network rule and azure-application rule to monitor exactly what traffic flows between your branches. These are the current table names for resource-specific logging, which Microsoft recommends over the legacy Azure diagnostics approach. This gives you visibility you'd never have with distributed firewalls.
This actually makes multi-region networking seem manageable. I was dreading setting this up.
That's it for today's episode. If you found this helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Next week we're covering virtual WAN cost optimization strategies.
And share this with anyone who's building out multi-region Azure infrastructure. They need to hear this before they make those routing mistakes.
Thanks for watching the Network Ninja Cloudcast. See you in the next one.